Before the world knew his name, before the TV cameras and the trophies, Chip Foose was just a kid in Santa Barbara with grease on his hands and a wild imagination in his head. His father, Sam Foose, ran a modest but respected custom shop, an environment buzzing with the smell of fresh paint, the clink of wrenches, and the hum of air tools. While most kids his age were riding bikes or playing baseball, Chip was right there in the middle of it, soaking up every detail. By the time he was 7, he wasn't just watching. He was helping. Sanding panels, passing tools, learning the difference between good enough and perfection. His earliest memories weren't cartoons or schoolyard games. They were the sharp lines of a fender, the way metallic paint shimmered under sunlight, and the magic of taking something worn and turning it into something jaw-dropping. At 12, he sprayed his first complete paint job, a Porsche 356. It wasn't a weekend hobby. It was an initiation into a life where craftsmanship was king. Looking back, it's almost eerie how clear his path was even then, because the boy in that garage wasn't just learning a trade. He was laying the foundation for a legend. With a foundation built in his father's shop, Chip's next step seemed obvious: turn raw talent into refined skill. He set his sights on the Art Center College of Design in Pasadena, one of the most prestigious automotive design schools in the world. Getting in was no small feat, but for Chip, it felt like destiny. The campus was a playground for dreamers, a place where every sketch could be the start of something revolutionary. But there was a problem: money. Halfway through his studies, financial pressures forced him to drop out. A gut punch that could have ended the story right there. It didn't. Chip went back to work, building his reputation in the real world. He honed his eye at Clinic Coachworks, producing luxury neoclassics, then joined Sterenberger Design, where he blended artistry with engineering in ways that caught serious attention. When the time was right, he returned to Art Center, finished his degree, and graduated in 1990 with even more fire in his engine. By then, his portfolio was already turning heads in the custom car scene. He wasn't just another designer. He was the guy who could see the finished masterpiece before the first bolt was turned, and the industry was starting to notice. By the late 90s, Chip's name was circulating in elite custom circles, thanks in part to his time at Hot Rods by Boyd, where he climbed to the role of company president. But in 1998, the company collapsed. For many, that would have been a career killer. For Chip, it was ignition. With his wife Lynn's encouragement, he took the biggest risk of his life and launched Foose Design, a small Huntington Beach shop with massive ambition. His first major statement came with the 0032 Roadster, a sleek, flawless creation that didn't just compete, it dominated. The car won America's most beautiful roadster, instantly putting Foose Design on the global map. The message was clear. This wasn't just another custom shop cranking out nice paint jobs. This was a design house where every curve had intention. Every detail told a story. Not long after, Chip became the youngest inductee ever into the Hot Rod Hall of Fame at just 31 years old. For a guy who had once been sanding cars as a kid in his dad's garage, it was surreal. But instead of coasting on the moment, Chip doubled down. The trophies were great, but he wasn't building for awards. He was building for history. Once Foose Design had everyone's attention, Chip shifted into high gear. His builds weren't just winning, they were redefining what award-winning even meant. In 2002, he unveiled Grandmaster, a Chevy-inspired showstopper that took home the coveted Riddler Award at Detroit Autorama. Most builders dream of winning that once. Chip would do it 4 times: 2002, 2003, 2005, and 2015. The very next year, 2003, he stunned the crowd again with the Stallion, a custom Ford Mustang so clean and aggressive, it became an instant legend. And it wasn't just the Riddler. His tally of America's most beautiful roadster titles grew like wildfire, adding multiple wins in the early 2000s. Each victory wasn't just a trophy, it was a signal to the entire industry. Foose was untouchable. But what made his work stand out wasn't just perfection, it was personality. Every build carried a soul, a story, a reason to exist. These weren't cars you just looked at. They were cars that made you feel something. And that emotional pull would soon become his most powerful weapon. Because as Chip was racking up titles, TV producers were taking notice, and they had a pitch that would change everything. By 2004, Chip Foose wasn't just a name in the custom car world, he was a brand. That's when television came calling with a concept unlike anything on the air. Take an unsuspecting car owner's beat-up ride, secretly steal it, and transform it into a dream machine in just a week. The result was overhauling, and Chip was the quiet genius at the center of the storm. From day one, it was clear this wasn't just a car show. It was an emotional roller coaster. Each episode blended high-stakes craftsmanship with deeply personal stories. Sometimes the cars carried decades of memories. Other times, they were tied to family legacies. And when the tarp came off for the big reveal, it wasn't just chrome and horsepower. It was tears, hugs, and a connection that no amount of horsepower could measure. The show ran for 5 seasons before wrapping in 2008, but demand brought it back in 2012 and again in 2019, eventually spanning 9 seasons and more than 170 builds. Millions tuned in, not just for the cars, but for Chip's calm presence and obsession with detail. Behind every surprise reveal was the same kid from his dad's shop, only now the world was watching. With TV fame secured, Chip was suddenly in a position where offers poured in. More shows, more collaborations, more chances to cash in. One of the biggest came from Monster Garage, a series known for wild, over-the-top builds and big personalities. But Chip said no, not because he didn't appreciate the platform, but because it didn't fit his philosophy. For him, custom cars weren't about shock value or building something crazy for ratings. They were about timeless design, perfect execution, and honoring the story behind every project. In interviews, Chip has been clear. Craftsmanship should come before showmanship. He's voiced concern about trends where spectacle overshadows skill, where builds are rushed to grab attention rather than done right. Even at the height of his celebrity, he refused to compromise that belief. This same dedication has influenced how he chooses projects. Whether it's a one-off concept car or a client commission, he approaches each with the same level of care as the cars he built on overhauling. It's why his work still feels relevant decades into his career, because he's not chasing fads. He's building things meant to last, both in metal and in memory. And that principle would carry into his work off-camera. Away from the cameras and car shows, Chip Foose channels his influence into something far bigger than business. After losing his sister to progeria, a rare genetic condition, Chip became deeply involved with the Progeria Research Foundation, eventually serving as vice chairman. His shop has also supported countless children's charities, auction builds, and benefit projects, using his designs to raise both money and awareness. For him, cars have always been a way to connect. But in this case, they connect him to causes that matter on a deeply personal level. Even now, decades into his career, Chip isn't slowing down. In a recent 2025 interview, he spoke about the future of custom cars, predicting a balance between traditional craftsmanship and emerging technologies like EV platforms and 3D printing. But he's cautious, warning that the soul of a build can't be automated. The magic, he insists, is still in the hands of the artist. He's also mentoring the next generation of designers, quietly shaping the industry's future just as much as he shaped its past. Whether in a garage, on a TV set, or in a charity workshop, Chip Foose is still doing what he's always done, building not just cars, but legacies. From a kid in Santa Barbara sanding panels in his dad's shop, to a household name whose work defines custom car culture, Chip Foose's journey is proof that passion, skill, and integrity can carry you further than pure ambition ever could. He's collected trophies, headlined a hit TV show, and built machines that will be studied and imitated for decades. Yet ask him what matters most, and he'll talk about the people, not the awards. The veterans who got their dream rides back, the families who cried when they saw a loved one's car restored, the kids who light up when they watch him sketch a design from scratch. But his story isn't finished. Foose Design is still turning out builds that stop crowds in their tracks, and Chip himself is still evolving, keeping one hand in the traditions that made him and the other exploring what's next. Will his next masterpiece be a radical electric hot rod, a futuristic concept that feels like it's been around forever, or something no one sees coming? One thing is certain, Chip Foose isn't done making history. And if the past is any clue, the next chapter might just be his boldest yet.